So we've all seen fake news online, right? It's kind of everywhere, swaying opinions, fueling debates. But imagine if that misleading info didn't just, change minds, but actually stopped essential medical supplies reaching hospitals or prevented your favorite products from even making it to the store shelves. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something pretty critical: the impact of these, well, information risks on the very backbone of our global economy, our supply
Yeah,
chains.
and it's a threat that's frankly grown massively. We really saw the scale of it during the COVID-19 crisis. The World Health Organization even called it an infodemic.
Hmm.
And this wasn't just a social media thing. It was a profound real-world disruption. It hit operations, resilience, everything from making stuff to getting it where it needs to go.
Absolutely. And to really get into this complex and maybe overlooked area, we're looking at a fascinating paper. It's from the Annals of Operations Research, published back in 2023. Our mission today is basically twofold. First, understand how these information risks, from, honest mistakes to deliberate attacks, disrupt supply chains. And second, explore how a newer technology, blockchain, might actually be a powerful way to manage these threats, to build stronger, more transparent systems for you, the consumer, and for businesses too. Okay, so let's start maybe by clearing up some terms. We hear fake news, misinformation, disinformation thrown around all the time, often interchangeably. But the authors here make some really important distinctions, and understanding them, well, it changes how we see the vulnerability, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Precision here is really key. The paper gives us some solid definitions that help break down the problem. So, fake news. They define it roughly as news containing false, fabricated, or deliberately misleading information, often sensational, often tied to media, especially social media. You just have to think back to, say, the 2016 U.S. elections. Fake news on Facebook got shared like 38 million times. That led to something like 760 million clicks. Huge. And on Twitter, it was nearly 6% of all news people consumed. That's a massive amount of potentially false stuff floating around. Then you've got misinformation. Now, this is a broader, more generic, just wrong or misleading information. But the crucial bit here is it's often considered inadvertent, an accident, a mistake. The COVID-19 infodemic is probably the most stark example. The WHO basically said it was too much information, including the false stuff, during an outbreak. And what happens? It causes confusion. People take risks they shouldn't. It can actually make outbreaks worse, last longer. And we definitely saw the impact on supply chains, right? Panic buying, shortages, everything from toilet paper to, well, much more critical supplies.
And finally, there's disinformation. Now this one. This is arguably the most dangerous. It's defined as deliberately spreading false information, often by governments or organized groups trying to influence policy or opinions. The key word is intentional deception. It's usually sophisticated, often has serious resources behind it. Historically, it's been a tool in warfare, propaganda.
Okay, so the real dividing line seems to be intent. Misinformation is like an accidental slip up, an untruth someone didn't mean to spread. Whereas disinformation, that's a calculated lie, designed to deceive. Fake news sort of sits in the middle sometimes, maybe leaning towards intentional. What does that difference in intent mean when we think about protecting supply chains?
That's a really critical point. It means just correcting the facts isn't always enough, especially if you're facing deliberate deception. The paper talks about the quality of information. It's like a scale. All these types, fake news, disinformation, they all degrade that quality. And low quality information, particularly disinformation, it doesn't just cause small errors. It can lead to, well, the paper calls it catastrophes and paralysis in supply chains. Disinformation is the worst case because it's intentional, it's resourced, it's basically a targeted attack, much more damaging than someone just getting a fact wrong accidentally.
Right. We often think about supply chains in terms of the physical things, the trucks, the warehouses, the products themselves. But this paper really argues that information isn't just one piece of the puzzle. It's more like the central nervous system, isn't it? Coordinating everything.
Exactly that. It's the invisible force directing all of the physical movement. And its central role is exactly what makes it so vulnerable. What the authors really show is that information isn't just another flow, like materials or money. It's an overarching theme, they call it. It integrates everything else. I mean, think about it simply. You, the customer, give information about what you want to a retailer. That info travels back, telling people what to ship, what to store, what to make, what raw materials to order. Every single step relies on getting accurate information at the right time. Without it, the whole thing just stops. It's like the blood supply for commerce.
That makes total sense, especially with how complex and interconnected everything is now. But, despite being so fundamental, the paper points out that these information flows and the risks tied to them, they haven't always gotten the attention they deserve in supply chain risk management, or SCRM, It feels like a big gap, actually.
A huge gap. And this leads us to a pretty sobering point. If high-quality information is the lifeblood, then low-quality information, fake news, misinformation, disinformation, can basically poison every single part of that supply chain. What the research really pushes us to see is that this isn't just about small local problems. Even one bit of bad information put in anywhere can cascade. It can cause huge damage way down the line, something traditional risk models might totally miss.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. The paper gets specific about which kinds of misleading information are the most damaging. It looks at where it comes from and, again, the intent behind it.
Exactly. The paper finds disruptions are significantly worse, riskier, when they come from exogenous sources, meaning outside the supply chain itself, and when they are intentional. That combination, that's a highest risk profile. Let's take the Takata airbag scandal. Now, that was horrific, and it's a powerful example of intentional deception, but it was endogenous. It happened inside the company. Around the year 2000, Takata knew internally their airbag inflators were faulty. Some even blew up in tests. An executive later admitted they actually manipulated information about the test results back in 2004. They deliberately hid the danger. This internal intentional lie led to, 67 million airbags being recalled, causing serious injury, even deaths. Just imagine the chaos that sent through the entire auto industry supply chain. Wow. An inside job, basically. Pretty much. Now, contrast that with an intentional exogenous threat, like a targeted strike from the outside. Imagine a sophisticated disinformation campaign spreading false rumors online about, say, a major oil refinery being shut down. What happens? Panic buying of gas, real shortages, massive disruption to transportation logistics. It affects everything. Or maybe a malicious rumor starts that a key shipping port is somehow compromised. Ships might reroute, causing huge bottlenecks, delays across global trade routes. These aren't accidents. They're deliberate attacks from outside the system, designed to cause paralysis.
So it's not just that the bad information exists, it's how fast and how far it can spread. That's what really cranks up the danger level.
Precisely. Amplification is key. The paper really highlights how fake news, misinformation, disinformation can be amplified. Social media is obviously a huge engine for this, like we saw with the COVID infodemic. It actually reminds me of Forrester's classic work on the bullwhip effect from way back in 1961. He showed how even tiny inaccuracies in demand signals could get bigger and bigger, creating more volatility as they moved up the supply chain, from retailer to wholesaler to manufacturer. This paper kind of extends that idea. It argues low-quality information itself gets distorted and amplified. It causes wider, more severe disruptions, not just in materials, but in financial flows, too. It's like a domino effect, but trust and truth are the first things to fall.
That really paints a picture of, well, systemic vulnerability. Okay, so if information is the problem, or at least the battleground, what are the defenses? How are companies trying to protect themselves and protect us, the consumers, from these, well, increasingly clever threats?
Right, that's the crucial question. How do we build resilience? The paper emphasizes collaboration and critically quality information sharing. Effective supply chain risk management, SCRM, it really depends on coordination, cooperation, sharing information. But, and this is a really important but, it only works if the information being shared is good quality. If you just blindly share unverified stuff, you can actually spread the problem faster, create these contagion effects. So it's about actively sharing awareness, flagging low-quality information, assessing risks together, sharing insights about IT vulnerabilities. Because often, cyber attackers use misinformation as a way to get into systems in the first place.
Okay, that makes sense. Build collective awareness. And this leads us, I guess, to the more cutting-edge tech solutions. The paper makes a pretty strong case for blockchain being a potential game changer here, right? For information integrity.
Yes, and what's really compelling is how blockchain, or distributed ledger technology, DLT, directly tackles those core vulnerabilities we've been talking about. Its basic principles are transparency, decentralization, and security. That makes it almost tailor-made for verifying information. Think of it like a shared encrypted digital notebook. Every transaction, every piece of data gets recorded as a block. These blocks are linked together chronologically, creating a chain. And this chain isn't stored in one place. It's copied across many computers in a network. So to change anything, you'd need agreement consensus from a majority of the network. That makes it virtually impossible to tamper with data once it's recorded. It's immutable.
Immutable. So unchangeable. That sounds like a direct counter to deliberate disinformation.
Exactly. It creates a permanent, unalterable record of truth. And the decentralization part means there's no single point of failure. You can't have a Takata-style inside job where someone internally suppresses or changes the information because it's distributed across the network.
Okay, so how does that translate into real benefits for supply chains? What can it actually do?
Well, the applications are pretty broad and potentially transformative. First, automation. You can use smart contracts, basically self-executing contracts written in code. Terms are automatically carried out, like releasing a payment when delivery is confirmed on the blockchain. This cuts down errors, delays, and potential for fraud in things like purchasing.
Streamlining things makes sense.
Then there's traceability and visibility. This is a huge one. Blockchain provides that immutable audit trail. You can track a product right from the raw material source through manufacturing, shipping, all the way to the consumer. This confirms authenticity fighting counterfeits. But it also lets you verify how it was handled. Was it kept at the right temperature? Did it meet ethical sourcing standards?
So you can really see the whole journey verifiably.
Precisely, which leads to enhanced security and integrity. It inherently reduces fraud and errors because the data is shared and verified. It provides a solid guarantee of truthfulness for the information everyone is sharing. This visibility also improves responsiveness. Companies can spot inconsistencies or problems much earlier in the chain before they become major issues. And finally, it enables better monitoring, tracking asset maintenance, checking critical conditions like cold storage for vaccines or food, even monitoring resources in remote areas, all recorded securely.
So it's not just like a fancy database, it's a fundamental change in how trust is established around data. It allows everyone involved, the companies, us as consumers, even regulators, to actually verify that a product's journey was compliant and authentic.
That's the promise, yes. And we are seeing real-world examples. Big players like Walmart are working with IBM on blockchain solutions for their food supply chains, for instance. It allows them and potential consumers to scan a product and see exactly where it came from and how it got there. But we should be realistic. Blockchain isn't a magic bullet, not yet anyway. It's still a relatively new technology for supply chains. There are challenges around scalability, handling massive amounts of data, and integrating it with existing systems. Security of the endpoints is still vital too. And the paper makes a really smart point. Blockchain is great for ensuring data integrity once it's on the chain. But you still need ways to detect misleading information before it gets recorded. So combining blockchain with other technologies like AI and big data analytics, which can help spot anomalies or suspicious patterns upstream, that's likely the future. The goal isn't just recording truth, but filtering out the falsehoods first.
Okay, so pulling this all together, we've really dived into this hidden but incredibly powerful threat. Fake news, misinformation, disinformation impacting our global supply chains. We've seen why understanding intent and origin matters so much, and how these information risks can just snowball, amplifying disruptions right across the chain, from raw materials way over there to the product maybe sitting right here in your hand.
And importantly, we've explored how technologies like blockchain offer, well, a genuinely robust potential solution, promising a level of transparency, security, and traceability we haven't really had before. It's about fundamentally safeguarding the integrity of the information that, as we've said, is truly the lifeblood of commerce and society, really.
So as information just keeps exploding, the good, the bad, the ugly, maybe pause and consider the hidden power of data, the journey of every single product you touch. What does all this mean for your trust in the brands you choose? Maybe. What responsibility do we all share as citizens, as consumers, to demand and support greater truth and transparency in how goods and the data describing them flow around the world? Something to think about.